manipulator, bastard, insane. When Urza Planeswalker is brought up in conversations, many words are used to describe him. Rarely, very rarely, are these words positive. In the context of Magic's story, Urza is often seen of as the lesser of two evils. It's been said that the only reason Urza was Magic's hero was the fact that Phyrexia was just so much worse. To battle against the hordes of Yawgmoth, Urza performed a great many deeds. His preparations bordered on monstrous, and his means were often compared to Phyrexia's ends. For Urza, there was no sacrifice too great, no line he wouldn't cross. He became a villain in the eyes of everyone, all to defeat Phyrexia. Urza would create a eugenics program that spanned the entirety of Dominaria, secretly manipulating families to try and create a superior breed of warrior. These same families became the target of Phyrexian agents once they uncovered his plans. Many were nearly wiped out simply by being associated with Urza. And then Urza would himself breed a race of beings whose only purpose was to fight and die in his wars. These Metathran had no choice in the matter, and suffered some of the greatest torment during the invasion. His experiments violated both the laws of nature and the flow of time, often with disastrous results. Entire planes were plundered, their very essence used to power Urza's machines of war. Even his fellow planeswalkers were not beyond Urza's manipulations, with some even being sacrificed to fuel his greatest weapons. And in the end, Urza was victorious. Yawgmoth was laid low, and Dominaria was saved. But behind that victory lay a mountain of sacrifices and atrocities, and in the aftermath of his greatest triumph, Urza is remembered with contempt, the wizard's name uttered as a curse in the modern day. Both in and out of Magic's story, Urza is regarded as a cruel, emotionless monster, a man unlike the kindly sages or great heroes that show up in other stories. We're told in great detail the many terrible deeds he performs, his descent into madness, and the lives he threw into the meat grinder that was Phyrexia. The common consensus in the Magic Vorthos community is that Urza was nothing short of monstrous. Many even see him as nearly as evil as Yawgmoth himself. But if you could take a step back and remember the context of Urza's actions, the scope he was operating on, I think you may just have a change of mind. Urza, I think, wasn't a monster. Sure, he wasn't a gallant knight in shining armor or a wise wizard gently guiding the hero's quest. Urza was a man. A very powerful man. A godlike man, but a man nonetheless. A very flawed man, trying to do the best he could to stave off what he saw as the absolute end of the world as he knew it. Even when he was a mere mortal, Urza was a man of cold logic. He tried to tackle every problem he encountered with creative rationality. Morals and emotion were often thrown to the side in pursuit of victory over his brother. This mentality carried over after Urza ascended as a planeswalker, and he saw not just Dominaria, but the multiverse as a whole through calculated eyes. is. But just because Urza approached everything with logic did not mean he was heartless. Urza had a great many passions and dearly loved his home. And he was also a man of action, and so, when Urza learned of something that threatened what he loved, he put all of his effort into stopping it. The thing is, Phyrexia was unlike any force in the multiverse. It was not just some big army, some invasion force that would conquer Dominaria. No, Phyrexia was so much worse. It was an apocalypse, an annihilation. Yawgmoth didn't want to take Dominaria and add it to his empire. He wanted to destroy Dominaria, plunder the very world, and convert its people into a cruel mockery of life, a vicious blend of flesh and metal bent to his will alone. When Urza was a mortal, he was fighting a war against his brother, a war ostensibly over which of them got to control two shiny rocks. But now, as a planeswalker, Urza saw himself tasked with battling against the most terrifying force the multiverse had to offer. If you learned one day that some malevolent force threatened your way of life, threatened to destroy everything you knew and loved, and that you had the chance to stop it, would you give up? Would you wait for others to rise to the challenge, or would you just hope the problem goes away? Or would you fight with everything you had against annihilation? Urza chose to fight. No sacrifice was too great for Urza because the alternative was losing everything. No line couldn't be crossed because he knew that failure meant the lines didn't matter. The atrocities he performed were never acts of mindless cruelty. Each one lent itself to his purpose, his only purpose: victory. After all, defeat meant much worse atrocities would be committed regardless. Deep down, Urza was a tinkerer, an inventor. There was nothing he loved more than sitting in his workshop playing with gears and gadgets. In a different time, where Urza and Mishra never found the Power Stones deep in the Thran ruins, Urza likely lived his entire life cataloging and studying artifacts, never exploring the wider world. But in this time, in this life, Urza was shackled with the burden of protecting everyone, everything, from the end itself, and he rose to the challenge. In his heart, Urza was not an evil man. He may have been cold, even indifferent, but his cause was righteous. And yes, he did stumble along the way. His sanity waned, and he almost cast aside the few morals he did have, but in the end, Urza accomplished his goal, and no sacrifice was too great, even his own. To this day, Urza's name is spat with contempt on Dominaria, the same people that insult him, forgetting that he, and he alone, is the reason any of them still live, that their world still lives. At the end of the day, I don't think it's right to call Urza a villain, one nearly as bad as Yawgmoth. Yawgmoth was fighting to destroy, Urza fighting to protect. I feel like the distinction and the results matters. And yes, I feel like Urza really was Magic's hero, no strings attached. Hey, thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed, consider leaving a like, leaving a comment, subscribing, or sharing the video with a friend. If you want to support the channel directly, head on over to Patreon. Patrons get early access to all of my lore content, and I sincerely appreciate their help. Sorry for the content drought, everybody. I am very busy with a move, so I've not had a whole lot of time to work on the channel directly, but hopefully I've got some in-depth lore videos coming for you guys in the near future. Until then, have a great day. Ciao.